Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Ross's Corner. One of the most important things that you can do in order to train smartly for the two oceans is to train with as much specificity as possible. Now what that means is that you need to know exactly what it is that the race is going to throw at you in order to prepare for it specifically now. So what I want to do over the next 2 weeks is to look at some of the specific aspects of the two oceans routes in order to give you some advice about how you might be able to adjust your training. And here I'm talking not only about what you do, but also your mental approach and focus in training in order to make the most of that time. Now you may be thinking that 9 weeks is a long way away, and why are we interested in looking at the route now? And I'm not doing it to intimidate you by showing you the profile, but it's really important that you understand that your results on race day is largely going to be determined by what you do in training between now and possibly the middle to end of March. So these are some super important weeks in your training program, and you can make more of them if you understand what it is you're training for. So in order to do that, we need to take a look at the profiles of the ultramarathon and the half marathon, and then I'll try and give you some advice about what you can expect and how you can adjust your training and find that extra 5 to 10%. So here are those routes, the ultra on top and the half below, and you can see that there's a pattern to both races where the first half is relatively flat. Then the third quarter of both is the most difficult by a considerable margin. You have Chapman's Peak, Constantia Neck for the Ultra, and Southern Cross for the half. And then finally, the final quarter consists of the rolling hills past Kirstenbosch and UCT. So this is significant because it means that the difficulty of the race is backloaded. In both races, by far the most difficult part comes in the second half, and that means that your training has to account for hills which will be run on fatigued legs, and also you have to be aware of the impact this will have on your pacing strategy. Now this you can implement in your training, and there are 3 principles that I'll introduce to you that I hope will make a 5% difference to how effective your training is over the coming weeks. So the first of those is to simulate the route in your training and make sure that when you do your long runs or your quality sessions that you include some hills at the back end. This is important because you don't want the 23rd of April to be the first time that you tackle a hill with tired legs. So plan your routes according to how you know you need to race on the day. The second point, which is extremely important to help you stay injury-free and also to perform at your best, is to make sure that you do some hill training and also leg and core strength. Now I'm going to devote a couple episodes later on in this series to this, so join me perhaps in week 7 and 8 when I'll show you some of them. But it really is important. If you want to conquer the hills, you need to get strong in the core and legs. And then finally, don't forget that the training you do is not just to condition your heart and your lungs and your muscles. It also helps a great deal with mental strength and your thought process. So be aware of what the two oceans is going to throw at you in April, so that when you're training, you can run through thoughts in your mind and prepare specifically mentally for the race as well. Awareness is half the battle. And that mental approach to training in order to optimize what you do ahead of the race is so important that I want to spend an entire episode next week discussing it and sharing with you some tips that you might implement in your training in order to be mentally stronger and more disciplined for race day. I'm going to leave today's episode at that because I've run out of time again, but those are 3 points that I hope will add 5% to your training. I have to emphasize, those are not the fundamentals of training. You still have to do your long runs and your consistent sessions and your hill workouts and your easy days. But what I've tried to do today is explain to you how you might make small adjustments to your training to get more out of it for specifically the two oceans, marathon and ultramarathon. We'll chat again next week where, as I say, we'll look at the mental approach. Until then, happy training and remember to be specific.